Hello to everyone who is joining this session today. We're delighted to have you with us. This is the second Zendy bite-sized session in a series of short sessions that we are running specifically aimed at students, at early career researchers, looking at a range of topics of relevance. So last week we were looking at mental health and wellness in the research workplace. Over the next couple of weeks, we will be looking at how to publish your first book, how to source funding for inclusive research. But today we are going to be looking at using AI tools responsibly. So obviously, AI tools have very much become part of the workplace, but of course, understanding them means understanding their limitations and using them responsibly. So in this session, we're going to be looking at practical, responsible use of AI tools. We'll be looking at transparency, we'll be looking at bias, at accuracy, and we are delighted to welcome today Mary Snyder, who will be our key speaker for this session. Mary is a university librarian in the US. She has been working in higher ed now for 15 plus years. She is one of the experts in AI, responsible use of AI tools within university settings and librarianship. So, Mary, I think the best thing for me now is to pass over to you. We will have a presentation from you. We will then have 10 minutes for Q&A. Feel free also, anyone who may be online at the moment, to jump in, ask questions, put them in the chat. Feel free to chat live as well. Put your hand up if you're brave enough to. We're excited to have this discussion. Thank you very much, everyone, and over to you, Mary.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Zendi, for having me today. I am happy to be with like-minded folks who are curious or active about using AI in their research practices. I'd love to start off with a question. And if you can chat in or if you just want to take a moment to think about it, what if you received a perfect citation, a perfectly cited citation formatting, perfect title, perfect author, perfect year from an AI tool? Would you double check it? Now, if you said yes, you're on the right track already. You are using it as you responsibly. Yes, oh my goodness, we have a comment in chat. Double check and question everything. I love that. A researcher questions everything. You are curious, you are a critical thinker, and you question, right? Um, and then some of us admit that maybe we might not double check it every time, right? And I would like to give you the benefit of the doubt that maybe you would set it aside in a list of resources to read fully later and double check it later, but maybe not in the moment you would double check it. But this morning, this afternoon, this evening, we are talking about how to use AI responsibly in research. And I also want to say the title, right? We are using it as you responsibly in research. We're not using it to complete our research, right? To complete. Um, I I would love to ask everyone to chat in. What is your interest in using AI? Is it as a student? Is it as a faculty member, a librarian? What is your interest? Okay, we have a mixed, mixed group of interest today, so that'll be good to know as we move on. So, one of the ideas that we wanted to cover today is transparency, right? That if if you choose to use AI tools in your research practices, that you need to be transparent. And when I'm helping students and faculty members with their research, some of my advice in that regard would be to check with who is sponsoring your research. What guidelines do they have laid out for you for how to declare or disclose your research to be transparent in it? So, are you working under a particular grant? Are you working under a particular department head at a university or college? Sometimes colleges have different rules department by department rather than a university or college-wise policy, right? So to look at what are the rules about how to disclose. Perhaps it's a disclaimer immediately after the abstract. Perhaps it's an inline comment within the body of your writing, to be transparent in the fact that you used it. You also want to use tools that are transparent themselves. So when you're looking at tools to consider helping you with your research, you want to find AI powered tools, AI powered features that show you their path of how they gave you the response they did. Maybe they're summarizing something, maybe they're creating a lit review. You want to double check, just like that perfect citation we talked about a few moments ago. You want to double check. So, to use tools that are transparent in how they give you their answers. And so that does mean you have to research the research tool before you use the tool, right? You have to get on their website and read, who are they? Who paid for this tool? Who is building it? Who are the employees? Do they have their pictures and names and titles? Is it a nonprofit? Is it a for-profit? Is it a private family entity? Is it a, just who is behind the AI tool, and what are their motivations for providing this tool? Because ultimately everything has bias. Every piece of writing, every tool, everything has bias, whether it's a built-in bias or if it's an inherent bias, right? Does anyone have a comment on that idea that everything has bias? Because I realize sometimes when I say that, people are intrigued. Yes. Yes, so when I say everything has bias, um and I talk about inherent bias or implicit bias or any sort of purposeful bias, right? It can be simply in our language of of what words we choose to describe a group of people, right? Or to describe a government. It also can be in the nature of how we did our research. Perhaps we focused our research in only peer-reviewed journals or only books or only the news. Well, now we have, as researchers, created bias by actually limiting our sources.
Mary, I'm not sure if you're able to see the questions. There are a couple which have popped up. One says, I have a question. When AI is used to generate, analyze, or summarize research content, what should researchers disclose, and how can they ensure that AI generated information is accurate and unbiased?
Yes. Well, when we get to the question of what should researchers disclose, we want to think about it in a few ways. One, you want to think about um, who are you publishing under? Because they may have rules. Is it ASU University Press? Is it a journal? They may have policies. Who is sponsoring you in your research, right? What is your affiliation? Are you a student at a school? Are you a faculty member at a school? Are you part of a research tank? Are you working on a white paper for a company? There may be rules there. You also want to think about what is the industry standard so far, right? In in your research, what have you seen the leading experts do? What has their example shown you? Right? And then fourth, I'd say to think about what makes sense. It's one thing to follow rules and follow standards, but also what makes sense. Sometimes I get questions from students, right? Do I have to use or do I have to cite Copilot if Copilot helped me change my sentences from passive voice to active voice? I'm like, like double check with your professor, but logically, I think that doesn't make sense, right? Because it's a grammar checker, right? Use it using AI to do things like that, right? Sometimes we can get citation overload, and then we're actually distracting from the true citations, the true research path that we're showing in our writing. Uh, the second part of your question is how can we ensure that AI generated information is accurate and unbiased? Oh, I love that question. And I go back to a common phrase I hear. I've heard it for years at work. I love it. It's trust but verify. If you're using a tool or feature or something from a vendor that you've already verified and you trust the vendor, you can have some level of trust in the tool. But when you've sifted through those 100 papers, those 50 papers, and you've chosen one for a spot in your paper, in your assignment, in your book chapter, the best advice is to read the entire paper, verify it yourself, right? AI cannot replace you and your creativity and your voice as a researcher in the scholarly community. It can help you get there faster. It it can maybe help you catch items and facts that you would have had to reread 3 times for, but maybe now you only have to read once or twice. But trust but verify to me is you still have to completely read the item. And that is how you can really confirm if something is accurate. We have some great questions and comments about how we live with bias all day long and how our brain has to make so many choices a day. Exactly. And so that is one of the reasons why I love using trusted AI powered tools is that it's helping me maybe narrow my results list. It's helping me narrow down which journals I look at, right? A journal that maybe I would have looked at already because I had a list of 50 journals and I would have gotten to it, but maybe I can get to it faster because because the AI tool pointed out to me, "Hey, read these 5 journals first because their journal description is relevant to what you're looking for." Whereas maybe I would have used the journal title, which is readily available to me on whatever screen I'm looking at, and maybe that would have led me astray at first, right? Because as researchers, we all here in the room can recognize that sometimes journal titles are rather vague And the scope of a journal can be rather wide. And so it can be hard sometimes to pick which journal of medical science to look at first, right? Which one? And AI can help us make that decision faster. We have a few other questions here that came in. So please keep your questions and comments coming in. The next question is, how can researchers, and especially students in early career, use AI as a research assistant without becoming overly dependent on it or compromising their own critical thinking and academic skills? Oh, I feel like this question was made for this chat today because one of the ways that I love to encourage students and early researchers to use AI is in reading comprehension. Books, especially even textbooks, uh, peer-reviewed journal articles, it is high-level reading. It is quality writing. Doesn't mean it's easy to read, though. It is the elephant in the room, right? It is hard to read. The sentences are long. There's many clauses. They're complex. The diction, the words chosen, um, it is not plain language. It is not straightforward. It is not jargon free. And so for a student or an early career researcher looking to break into a field, there can be many terms and phrases that are difficult to understand. And then also just the reading level. And so when you're able to use a trusted AI tool to sort of engage with a particular piece of writing, right? You're not asking the AI to generate information. You're asking the AI to answer questions about a piece of writing that you're looking at. Um, it it is great to show students how you can ask the AI to rephrase, what is the research question? What what were the limitations of this study? What are the cases for further research, right? To use AI features to help with reading comprehension, breaking through the jargon, because reading a true peer-reviewed research journal article is extraordinarily hard. It is, some could say it's harder than actually finding it. We have another question here about what guidelines should universities and research institutions have for both students and professors when using AI in research, particularly regarding transparency, authorship, plagiarism, and disclosure of AI use. Oh, that that's a question that doesn't have one answer, folks. I think at this point we're still, as a society and as many of these societies in our collected as economy, and um we are seeing universities have drastically different approaches to this. And so I would say that you absolutely first need to check with your university, your professor, and find out your guidelines, because it's entirely possible that now in your life and in in future years there will be varying guidelines, because we already have varying guidelines in 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 other areas of research. Let's say simply just citation. How many citation styles are there? We do not have one citation style. There is not one size that fits all. That, depending on your context, depending on your audience, depending on your topic and what's important in your topic, maybe you need a citation style that emphasizes year. Maybe you need one that emphasizes author. Um, I I I would put out there that my my opinion is that in the future, AI guidelines might be similar. That as issue universities and institutions and governments continue to see the value of AI and where it can be an excellent tool, um, that we may see a variety. You might see a time where you can use it quite extensively, and then you might see other times where you cannot use it at all. So, yeah, so guidelines I think will be wide ranging.
I find that really interesting, Mary, and thank you for the question and thanks for the answer. It is, well, we always say it's a little bit of a Wild West in terms of AI use. We can access anything, we can use anything right now. Um, and I'm always intrigued by the balance between the personal responsibility that we have to, as you said earlier, research the research tool and check what we are using, what the background is, any bias that may exist, versus the responsibility of the provider, of the library, of the university in providing those guidelines as well. And I think there's no perfect answer right now, but as a librarian, I'm curious what your perspective on that is, how you might be supporting your students with this at the moment, or any challenges that you may face there.
Yes. Well, it is very similar to actually what what I've been sharing now is that we encourage students to use the AI features within our library, and we tell them, we have already verified these. So if they're on our website, use them. We have done that step for you to research the research tool, right? Uh, I tend to orient students towards using AI research tools that engage with a piece of research, right? That are built in to a system. Um, Me personally, I have not yet built enough trust with tools that generate research, right? So when we're talking with sort of a general use AI tool and I'm using it, or one could be using it to help conduct research, I'm like, like that is not its bread and butter. That is not what it's meant to do. Rather than using a general use for research, go to a tool that is designed that is its first use. That is its primary use. So while I encourage students to experiment with AI in research, um, I also tell them, not every tool works, right? Every tool has its purpose and its use, and there's never going to be, I think, my opinion is that there'll never be one tool that you can do everything in, that you can plan your day and you can plan your kids' summer and you can do your research and do your work in. I just don't see that ever being in one tool because of how the business side of it, the computing side of it, and all of that jazz, right, would work. So in my mind, uh, to go to a tool that is designed for what you're trying to do. So go to a tool that is designed for research and use that. We see, we'll take a look at our chat and see if there's any other questions or comments here. We're coming up to the last few minutes. We have 5 minutes left, and we are happy to answer any questions.
perhaps while people are typing. I have a little bit of a follow-up, I guess, on that, Mary. You were speaking about tools which are built specifically for research, for researchers. I've had some interesting conversations just with scholars in Africa recently, at different universities there, where access to those specific tools comes at a cost. And that's one of the challenges they face there. So their students tend to use generic, dare I say, ChatGPT like tools for research because there's nothing else available right now. Um,
Mhm.
Again, probably no great answer to that, but other than sort of maybe sort of smaller tools which are designed for that. But what I am interested is are there any sources that you would recommend? Any sort of smaller tools? Anything that you're using? Anything that is open source, perhaps even that some of our participants, perhaps who may be based in different regions, could take a look at if they are still primarily using these very broad generic AI tools?
Oh, that's that's a good question. There's so many tools out there. I hesitate to recommend a specific one because they all have limits based on what you're trying to research. Medical research, it's like electrical engineering research. Um, the different tools may have access to different content. So my best advice would be is to experiment and maybe pick one question that you know the answer to, right? Maybe there is a scholar that your faculty member in your civil engineering 100 class always cites as, a key thinker in the 1980s of bridge design, and come up with that question and ask 10, 15 different free tools and test the tools and pick out which one, and do that for every area or every discipline, because you might find that you have one tool for math classes, one tool for engineering classes, one tool for literature classes. Um, that that would be my advice, is to sort of test and pick for each circumstance, for each discipline.
That sounds great, and obviously that builds sort of the personal responsibility side that we mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
I'm looking at any further questions. There's one in the Q&A box. Uh, I'm not sure if we've addressed this. Do you have a tip for current students on how to keep improving their critical thinking? I mean, this generation, of course, yes, we do have a generation now which is growing up with AI, which I can't even say I did. I think many of us here today perhaps didn't grow up with AI, but we have this new generation which is. Maybe in the last minute or so, perhaps, Mary, any tips to continue improving our critical thinking in this new age?
Absolutely. I love that question to finish on. Um, my advice would be is to build it into your prompts, those questions that you ask bots, right? Rather than asking bots for an answer, asking bots which paragraph of this paper has the results section. Can you point me to something, right? Um, Questions like that, rather than asking it what is the answer to something, or to make changes to a sentence for you in terms of ethical writing, which is very very close to ethical research, but asking it for advice or to point you as you for directions. Or secondly, to have a discussion with it when you ask a question about, what was the outcome of this study? And it gives you an answer, and you read that paragraph, and you can be honest with yourself and say, oh, I wouldn't have thought that. Say back to the bot, well, I thought the outcome would have been ABC. Can you explain to me why not? Right. So to engage in that back and forth with the bot, it doesn't have to be a one and done prompt engagement.
Thanks, Mary. Somehow we're already at half past. Time flies when you're learning, I think. Is there anyone else who would like to put a really quick question to Mary? If not, do feel free to get in touch with us if any other questions come up or if you've been feeling shy. I think both myself would be interested in talking. I'm sure Mary would be happy to answer any further questions. But we are at half past now. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you for the questions. We invite you to stay posted in regards to new bite-sized sessions over the next couple of weeks. But for now, thank you very much and wish you a good afternoon or evening, depending on where you're based. Thank you.